concluding its judgment, the Court of Appeal recently, this is a judgment from December of 2013, in our litigation, said the following: even before the Ecuadorian judgment was released, Chevron, speaking through a spokesman, stated that Chevron intended to contest the judgment if Chevron lost. He said, quote, "We're going to fight this until hell freezes over, and then we'll fight it out on the ice," end quote. And then the Court of Appeal says in the next paragraph, Chevron's wish is granted. After all these years, the Ecuadorian plaintiffs deserve to have the recognition and enforcement of the Ecuadorian judgment heard on the merits in an appropriate jurisdiction. At this juncture, Ontario is that jurisdiction. So that was the decision of the Court of Appeal rendered last December, and it is a nice segue into why we are here, and that is that before the trial even really began in Ecuador, Texaco at the time, which was acquired by Chevron, and so I'll just refer to it as Chevron, but it was Texaco at the time. Texaco started removing all of its assets from Ecuador. So understanding that there might be a judgment rendered against it, in order to evade actually paying any of those amounts, Texaco removed its assets from Ecuador. So in the ordinary course, in any jurisdiction, one obtains a judgment from the court to a fixed amount of money, and one collects that amount of money from the judgment debtor. If the judgment debtor doesn't voluntarily pay, then you seize their assets in that jurisdiction. Having removed their assets from Ecuador, from that jurisdiction, the plaintiffs were left having to seek Chevron's assets elsewhere, and therefore have the Ecuadorian judgment recognized and enforced by courts of a separate jurisdiction. Enter Ontario, which is one of a few, but very few, but still multiple jurisdictions around the world in which the plaintiffs have gone to have courts of other jurisdictions recognize an judgment so that they could finally collect on the debt. So a couple of things to just make very clear. A lawsuit can have many different forms, and this lawsuit is a collection on a debt. That is, the liability has already been decided. The question about who is responsible for the particular injuries were decided, and they're final, and they cannot be further litigated in Ontario. What we are doing now is collecting on that debt. So Chevron has operating subsidiaries in countries around the world, and just as it does in pretty much every country around the world, in Canada, it has an operating subsidiary which it aptly names Chevron Canada. And so we have sued Chevron Corporation and Chevron Canada